It's tax deferred versus tax free. It's for your beneficiaries in a pre-tax account. They're going to pay total taxes on it. After tax, they get a tax.
But Susie, let's go back to debt for a second. For people who have student loans, they've got credit cards, they've got that mortgage. How do you prioritize the debt? What do you pay and when?
Yeah, student loan debt is the most dangerous debt you can have, bar none. Because in 90% of the cases, 99%, it is not dischargeable in bankruptcy. So they have the legal authority to garnish your wages and to really then decrease your income. So student loan debt, first that. Then if you have credit card debt, that needs to go because debt is bondage. You got to get out of that. And then you start working. If you're going to stay in your home for the rest of your life, get rid of your mortgage payment.
So I want to follow up on that because you said you don't want to have a mortgage, a live mortgage still going by the time you retire. Why?
Because your mortgage payment is your highest monthly expense that you're going to have, bar none.
Yeah.
So it's far easier to pay off your mortgage than to save the money to generate the income to pay off your mortgage. Your goal in retirement is to be totally debt-free, 100%. In retirement, if you don't have enough money, decrease your expenses, and then your money will go further.
Gotcha. What about when? When do you start? I know, when we're bored, we should start saving.
No, you're $200 when you're 30.
Yeah, so here's the thing. People always think they have time. Time is the most important ingredient in your retirement recipe. Let's just say you have 40 years. You're young. You have 40 years till you're going to be 70. You put $200 a month away into a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, average market returns. Do you know that you would have $1.1 million at 70, which I think should be the new retirement age. But you wait 10 years.
You're talking about having a surplus of $200 when you're 30, but shouldn't you take that 200 and apply it to one of these other things?
No, you need to be saving, especially in a 401k, Carson, if they match, especially if they match your contribution. You put in $1, they give you 50 cents, you cannot pass that up. I don't care if you don't have any money. You can't pass up free money, but if you started putting, just let's say, $200 a month away, and you now only have 30 years left versus 40, you only have like $400,000. You just blew $700,000 because you waited 10 years. It was only a $24,000 difference in those 10 years.
Yeah.
But the 10 years, the sooner you begin, the better.
But just to Carson's point, like if I have $200 to spare, I can either pay off my credit card debt or I can start saving in a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
What would my choice be?
Your choice there would be to pay off your credit card debt.
Okay.
Because chances are, if you don't have much money, you may be behind on your credit card payments and your interest rates are probably 15, 16, 18%. So that's a guaranteed return. When you pay off credit card debt that's at a high interest rate, you're guaranteeing yourself a fantastic return.
Okay, the last thing is what? What is the one small thing you would tell our viewers?
Now, here's what's really important. Many people have advice for all of you. Sometimes that advice is good for the person giving the advice, and sometimes it's good for the person receiving it. My advice is this: please don't do anything that you don't understand. It's better to do nothing than to do something you do not understand, because sometimes you can do something and it blows all your money. And so if it doesn't feel right to you, you have to trust yourself more than you trust others. It's your money. And what happens to your money is going to directly affect the quality of your life, not my life, not anybody else's life. So if you really want to be powerful in life, you have to be powerful.
It's good advice. In some cases, financially doing nothing is better than making a choice that could.
Oh, you don't understand?
Also, because never talk yourself into trusting anyone. You walk into a financial advisor's office and they feel like, they know what they're doing. They must know. You don't know when you believe them. Sometimes they give great advice, and sometimes they give advice.
Susie,
not so
you're giving pearls not just for finances. That's true in anything, right?
Well, when you think about it, Savannah, your money and your life are one. Who you are and what you have is one. You're the one who earns it, you're the one who invests it, you're the one who saves it, and you're the one who's going to live it.
You're our trusted source.
Yeah. Come on, everybody, come join me on my Women in Money podcast.
Thank you, Susie. Good to see you.
So the thing is you want to, again, expose yourself to information, all right? So for example, just tremendous advice. She's got some, but there are 2 or 3 things that she said that I personally disagree with. Okay? Partly because, first of all, I don't think my money is my life. I understand her statement, okay? But everybody in this room is going to have a different scenario, okay? And so your scenario is going to determine what a different path and different decisions that you need to make, okay? So, for example, in my case, because I'm a pastor, I get housing allowance, which means I don't have to pay taxes on that portion of my money that's designated toward housing allowance. So I actually just refinanced my house this last year, because I almost had it paid off. I don't want my house paid off, okay? So my situation's different than most people. So I took the money out of my house and reinvested it somewhere else, okay? Because I can borrow money at 3% and make it 15%, make 15% off of it, okay? So it just makes financial decision, wisdom for me to do that, because my case is a little bit different. And every one of you is going to be different, okay? The important thing is to avail yourself of information so that you can then make a good financial decision with your finances, okay? And again, every situation is going to be different. But if you're 50 plus, I would highly recommend this book, okay? Or if you're approaching that, just some really good, solid stuff in there, way beyond what I could offer to you, okay? So, as we get started, it's good to see you back. Let's open in prayer. And Lord, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity that we have to just learn good stewardship principles. Ask that you would help us, Lord, to be good stewards with that which you have entrusted to us. Help us, Lord, to gain a financial education and to be disciplined and honorable with that which you give to us. And we'll thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Who can tell me at least the trichotomy of wealth, your first fill-ins for tonight? What are the 3 angles that we need to look at to be wise with our finances? Yeah, Chris? Okay, so the first blank would be spiritually. We want to honor God with that, okay? And you need help back there, baby? Who? Carol? Thank you, Carol. And then the second one would be what? Yeah. So the attitudinal, okay, which would be your motive. And then the third angle is practical, okay? So remember, we talked about we want to be able to address every problem. Look for those 3 angles. And Dave Williams taught me that when it comes to money, you want to always honor God, which is what we always hear about in church, but you also got to have the right attitude toward money. We're not in a get-rich-quick plan, and we don't want to shift our trust from the Lord to taking care of ourselves financially, all right? And then get a practical financial education, which is what I'm hoping to whet your appetite with. I also told you last week about Mint.com. It has a great budget program. And if we, and I'm adding the word if because I had some information brought to me today that's causing me to guess a little bit. I told you last week that the board has approved $2,500 for you to have free access to all of Dave Ramsey's material for a year. In that material is a budget program as well. But there's a lot of budget programs out there, okay? Did anybody work on a budget this week? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. 6 of you did. Good. How many of you already have a budget in place so you didn't have to work on it? Okay, good. And again, remember, a budget is predetermining where your money goes. And you got to start there, guys. If you don't do that, then everything else is up in the air, okay? But if you want a good budget program, mint.com, free, and there's a lot of good financial advice on mint.com as well. And I ended the class last week sharing with you the 4 things that Jane and I made a decision on, and I had no idea how brilliant this was at the time, but I can tell you 38 years later, it was absolutely brilliant. We made a commitment that we would always live below our means, and now I would say we probably live on 50% of our income. Second, that if we could not afford to pay for something with cash, we could not afford to own it. So Jane and I have never financed anything in our life except for our house. We've never financed anything, and we just made that commitment. We said we're not going to buy into the American lie that says that you need to finance everything, okay? We just have never believed that and have never done that. And don't be condemned if you have financed things. I would just challenge you, and I'll show you later on why it's so important. I would just challenge you to stop giving all of your money away to lenders, okay? But Jane and I have never, ever financed anything, and by the grace of God, thank you, Jesus. And then the next commitment that we made was we said every time we got a raise, we would not raise our standard of living equivalently. And it's just part of life. I mean, you're going to be, and should Jesus tarry, okay, especially those of you who are younger, in 20 years from now, you're going to be making a lot more money than you're making now. It's just is how life works. And if we were able to survive at $17,000 and we got a $3,000 raise, why do I need to quickly raise my standard that high? Obviously, we were making it before. And so what happened was every time we get a raise, if we didn't raise our standard of living equivalently, then that gap got bigger and bigger and bigger, which gave us more financial freedom so that we could then be more generous and we would have more to invest, okay, which then gave us another raise because now more money is working for us, okay, and so that gives us tremendous financial freedom. I, for one, don't handle financial pressure well. I don't think very many people do, okay, and so in my personal life, it's always been something that I have made sure that I didn't have to deal with. And I would just challenge you, and I hope to convince you today to really attack it viciously, okay? And then the fourth one was that we would always wait at least 24 hours before making a big purchase. And big purchase, by definition, changed through the years. When we first got married, a big purchase was $100, and so those were some rules that I would say was brilliant. We didn't even know how brilliant it was, and it really made a difference in our life. And I would challenge you to consider maybe making those same kind of commitments as a couple if you're married. And again, let me just say again that at any point, if you have a comment, a question, an insight, something that you're personally doing that thinks might be beneficial, please, okay? Interrupt me. But wealthy people understand that you have to work hard until you can make your money work hard for you, hard enough to take your place. You've got to make the shift from working for money to making money work for you. That is one of the major keys in financial freedom, okay? And to increase your wealth, you have to either earn more or live on less. It's kind of like if you want to lose weight, we all know you've got to, no lady, your husband's right up here. Yeah, he's right over here. He saved you a seat. But if you want to lose weight, you know you got to burn more calories than you take in. If you want to gain your wealth, it's obvious you've got to earn more than what you do. The average person, however, lives for the now. They sacrifice the future for the now, whereas wealthy people learn how to choose balance. And I use that word purposely because you don't want to always be putting off for tomorrow. You need to have some entertainment money. You need to have some money that you use to meet your needs now, all of that, okay? So you want to strive for balance. But the problem is, and I put it in your notes, the average person works hard and then spends all of their money, which results in them having to work hard forever. Whereas wealthy people work hard, save, and then invest their money so that they never have to work hard again. So one of the light bulbs for me about 8-9 years ago was when I learned the power of compound interest. And I don't know if any of you brought back the notes from last week, but I put in the notes an illustration of the power of compound interest. In a book that I read this week by Warren Woodward, he had this quote by Albert Einstein who said, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't understand it pays it." And I put in your notes last week, I actually typed it out for you so that you could actually see. If someone was to come to you and say, "I'll give you $1 million today, and I'll give you $1 million every day for the next 31 days, or I'll give you a penny today, and I will double it every day for the next 31 days," you want to take the penny. And I have the math spelled out for you, okay? What's interesting is if you look down, you don't even get over $1 million till day 27, okay? So, for the first 27 days, you're losing ground, okay? But because of the power of compound interest, what you'll end up doing if you take the penny, you'll end up with $42,949,000 plus dollars compared to 32 million, because you got $1 million and then 31 million for the next 31 days. This is the power of compound interest, and we've got to learn. We've got to learn to make interest work for us. And I don't know how many of you are familiar. I know some of this stuff is very introductory and you're familiar with it. But the rule of 72 was a light bulb for me when Dave taught me this, again, 8 years ago. The rule of 72 is this: whatever interest you can get your money to work for you, if you take that number and divide it into 72, it will tell you how many years it's going to take to double your money. Okay? So, for example, if I can find an investment for $1,000 and I can get 12% interest, if I divide 12 into 72, in 6 years, my $1,000 will become $2,000. Okay? If I'm only getting 4% interest on my money, then divide 4 into 72, that's 18 years. It's going to take 18 years for that $1,000 to become $2,000. All right? So to me, this again shows the power of interest and why you want to work hard at learning how to gain the greatest interest in your investments. Understanding that a lot of times, the higher the interest rate you're going to get, the greater the risk factor can be. Which is why I like to introduce into you last week the I-bonds. All right, for you to consider. That's something very easy, something that all you need is $50 for to invest into. Mike and Barb looked into it. Mike told me that in May, right now, if you buy it now, it's 7.2%, which is pretty good return on a Treasury I-bond, backed up by our government, which is the safest bonds that you can find, okay? Mike said that in May, it's anticipated to go to 8.1%, which only makes sense because our interest rate is going up across the nation, right? So, which is another thing you got to keep in mind. If your money is working at 4% interest and inflation rate is 8%, guess what? You're losing money, right? I mean, if your interest is 8% and the inflation rate is 8%, your money buying power is staying the same. You're just breaking even. You're not gaining wealth. You're just preventing losing wealth, right? And so this is why you want to constantly be listening to financial advisors, information, okay, the books like the one I just recommended. By the way, at the end of your notes, I gave you 10 books that I read that I would recommend for you to consider reading, okay? It's at the end of your notes. But the key, again, to taking advantage of compound interest is starting early. You want to start as early as possible. I'm glad to see my son in here. I'm glad to see, you, Janko over there. I'm glad to see Lauren in here. I mean, the younger you are, the more you're going to be able to take advantage, Joe, the more you're going to be able to take advantage of this because you get started earlier. And I shared in church on Sunday morning about a month ago this chart here that depicts that. This chart is a scary chart for me. But you have Jackie. She started at 15, putting $300 a month into an investment of 8%. She only did it for 10 years, which is a total of $36,000 that she invested. But when she's 65, she'll have $1,200,000 at that rate, okay? Whereas you have Tom, who gave the same amount, $300 a month, but he didn't start until he was 25. He did it for 40 years. He invested a total of $144,000, and he still doesn't have as much as she has. And the key is, she did it from 15 to 25. He started at 25. So the earlier you start, even with small amounts, the better it's going to be for you, because the chart always goes like this, okay? The chart always goes like this, and you have so much time before you hit that curve, all right? And so as I told you last week, I started at 21, and I was only putting $25 a month. We were living in technical poverty. $25 a month was hard for us, but we were doing it anyway. But because we've been doing it for so long, now we've hit that curve, and now my investments are making more than what I put into it because I finally hit the curve. So you got to, the sooner you can start. And I would just challenge you, expose this to your kids. I don't care how old your kids are. Tell your kids about this, okay? And if you're able, maybe start a fund for your grandkids, you know. But the sooner you start, the better off you're going to be, all right? Any questions or comments on this? Yes. Yeah, so again, the question that I heard was, isn't it possible if you invest that you lose it? Is that basically what you said? Yeah, so there's always somewhat of a risk, okay? But again, the more that I loved her advice on, if you don't understand something, don't do it. There's some investment opportunities out there I just don't understand, and so I'm not doing it. So for example, right now, cryptocurrency is probably something I need to be really, really learning, and I'm trying to learn, but I don't have enough understanding yet to be comfortable to actually go there yet. And until I get that understanding, I'm not going to make the leap. And if I miss the opportunity, I miss the opportunity. But the more that you can understand how something works, the less likely you're going to lose your money, okay? So for example, if you were here, were you here last week? Remember I told you I was raised being taught that stocks were gambling? Okay? And so I missed opportunities because I thought that to invest in stocks was the equivalent to gambling. But now that I understand a little bit about stocks, I feel comfortable enough to be able to invest. Have I lost some money? Absolutely, I've lost some money. I've lost over $50,000 in some of my investments. Okay? But that's part of the risk that you take, okay? And you just suck it up, and, you don't tell people about it. Don't tell my wife. She would freak out. But at the same time, you gain education through all of it. But the more I understand, the less often that I make those kind of mistakes. Okay? Only as much as you're comfortable with. Okay? So for me, yeah, especially if you're investing in something new, you should never invest anything that goes beyond the comfort of losing it. Okay? And at first that might be $10. Okay? It might be $20. But yeah, never more than what you want to lose. Okay? You got to be able to, if you lose it, not lose sleep over it. So for example, that one investment I just made reference to, it's close to $50,000. I didn't lose a bit of sleep that night. And the reason being is because I'm more comfortable in other areas. I could lose that, and it's not going to change anything for me in the big scheme of things. Okay? So again, you got to always function out of faith and not out of fear. Okay? And the more that you understand, the better you're going to be able to make a wise decision in your investments. All right? And we'll talk a little bit more about investments and some opportunities next week. All right? Proverbs says that where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraints. And so we gotta have a strong enough why in order to accomplish anything. To me, the why equation or the question is always the most important. And I put in your notes, if I was to ask you, how long would it take you to come up with $25,000? Lauren, if I was to ask you, how long would it take you to come up with $25,000? You might say 3 years, right? But if I said, if I had your kid, I'd kidnapped your kid, and I said, $25,000 if you want that kid back, and you better have it to me in the next 24 hours, I bet you anything you'll come up with $25,000. Right? Why? Because the why was pretty big. Right? So a lot to keep the kid. Hey, that's my grandchild. You better come to me. So the point that I'm making is sometimes we may think, well, I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do this. No. Yes, you can. You just need to understand how serious this is. Okay? And again, I had an advantage because I just love numbers. I love crunching numbers. I understood numbers even at a young age. And I tend to be focused on certain things. And so, but you got to understand just how serious this event is. Okay? And what I'm talking about is actually dealing with debt. Because the truth of the matter is we have a lot of excuses as to why we can't do debt and deal with our debt. But can I give you some of the main reasons why we have debt problems? The first one is impatience. We are instant gratification society. If the banker says that you can afford this house, or the automobile industry says that you can afford this car, we go, well, hey, they said I deserve it, I can afford it, and so we finance it, okay? Impatience. Another one's greed. This is one reason why I believe that it's very important to be faithful with God's tithe and then giving above and beyond that. Because every time I give my money away, what I do is I cut any ounce of greed that might try to get in my heart. Okay? I hold on to everything loosely. Okay? Especially money. And so this is the reason why giving is so important. And I'll be honest with you, my wife and I had this conversation just a couple of weeks ago. In a way, I absolutely do not like the electronic world that we're in, because to give on your app is not near as meaningful to an old-fashioned guy like me as to bringing cash to the altar and putting it in a bucket every week. There's something that happens when you actually have cash in your hand and you're passing it, as opposed to just pushing a button electronically, at least to my generation. Now, to the younger generation, it might not be that way, but it just, there's something that happens. And to me, one of the greatest ways to break any spirit of greed is being always generous in giving to others, okay, giving it away. A spirit of entitlement is prevalent. And our government is really pushing this, okay? And a few years ago, I preached a message. I don't know if any of you remember, but I remember I felt like Holy Spirit said to me, Richard, who is entitled to a roof over their head and food in their belly? And he said to me, babies and prisoners. So if you are screaming out, I'm entitled to that, what you're asking for is either to be imprisoned or to be, you're immature. Because a man who isn't willing to work should not eat, is what the Bible teaches, right? But there's an entitlement spirit that's being propagated in our nation, okay? And it's so that we can be put into financial slavery. Yeah, Lisa? Right.
I don't want my kids to be like that. They just are. You know, like not because they do have a lot. So like how do you get away from that without just being like you can't have anything ever again?
Right. Well, I think making them earn things, chores, okay? An allowance should not be something that a child automatically gets. It's something they have to definitely earn, and I'm not saying you do that. I'm just saying. But giving and serving others and gratitude. Being grateful for everything. Remember I told you last week? It actually happened yesterday. I went to the gym yesterday. I opened up my door, and there was a penny there. I literally yesterday reached down, picked up the penny, said, money cometh, thank you, Jesus, and put it in my ashtray. Being grateful for everything is incredibly, it will keep that spirit of entitlement from getting a hold of you. Okay, gratitude. And then ignorance is another reason why people go into debt. Okay, you gotta again get that financial education. Proverbs says this. It says, he who will not listen to strong teaching will become poor and ashamed, but he who listens to strong words are spoken will be honored. A lot of people, they don't even want to hear this kind of teaching in the church circle. And can I tell you, it's going to bring bondage to them financially and shame. We need to always be teachable, okay? Whether it's in finance or whatever it might be, okay? I personally believe that God wants us to have financial power, not financial pressure. When you have finance, you have options, okay? I don't want to have to go into a restaurant, although I do this. I don't want to have to go into a restaurant and look to the right-hand side of the menu to determine what I want to eat. right? I want to be able to go in and just eat whatever I want to eat and not have to worry about what the price tag says on it, right? And your upper end restaurants, they don't have prices on there. That's what I'm told anyway. Right? But listen, finance has power. When you have money, you have options. You can, if you had all the money in the world, you can drive any vehicle you wanted to and not even think about it. Right? There's power in that. But most people don't live with financial power, they live with financial pressure. And God came to set us free. And listen, when he set us free, let's not get back into bondage again. And most Christians are in slavery to financial pressure. Again, because we haven't availed ourselves to a financial education. Right? So until we realize the power and the authority that we are literally giving away to the enemy, we will not get angry enough to viciously attack the debt and conquer its strongholds. We got to understand that when we finance everything and we are giving interest to this lender and that lender and making this poor decision and that poor decision, we are literally giving the enemy power over us. And I want financial freedom. Okay? I don't want to be controlled because I am indebted to somebody else. Look what Proverbs says. It says, "My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, if you have struck hands in a pledge for another, if you've been trapped by what you said, ensnared by the words of your mouth, then do this, my son, to free yourself, since you have fallen into your neighbor's hands. Go and humble yourself. Press your plea with your neighbor. Allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your eyelids. Free yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the snare of the fowler." In other words, if you are in a financial agreement with somebody and it's not a good situation for you, you need to get out of it. You need to do everything you can. Humble yourself. Get rid of that contract. Get rid of that agreement as quick as you can, because you are snared to it. Don't let slumber hit you. And I love the verbiage, like a gazelle at the hand of the hunter. Do you realize that a cheetah can run faster than a gazelle, but it only catches it 1 out of 19 times? And it's because the cheetah is running for his life. The gazelle is running for its life. The cheetah is only running for lunch. Do you see the verbiage? Do you see the imagery? We've got to understand that debt is robbing us of freedom. It's robbing us of options, okay? In fact, debt, Dave Ramsey says, and many advisors say, that debt is the single largest trap that's keeping people out of the wealthy place today. And I'll prove that to you, okay? Take, for example, here's a case scenario number 1. And I just did these numbers for your lesson today. Let's just say that you spend $200 per month on just frivolous things such as pizza, videos, whatever format that might come in with Netflix or whatever, fast food, expensive coffees, okay? Which really is a pretty low figure, I would guesstimate, for a lot of people, $200 a month. And I'm not saying you can't ever do that, but I'm just for illustration purposes. If you was to take that $200 a month and pay it toward the principal of your $300 mortgage at home at the interest rate of 5.25, which is what it's at right now. If you was to mortgage a home right now, this is the interest rate, 5.25. If you was to take that $200 and pay it toward the principal every month instead of blowing it on frivolous things, you would actually save yourself $74,000. See that? Frivolous. Now, again, I'm not saying you can't ever have a pizza, but you need to have it in your budget so that you're not buying more pizza than what you're supposed to be. I'm not saying you can't have a a fancy coffee. But next time you drive by Starbucks, especially in the morning, just look over and see how many people's in line. And those people are in line every morning. And I guarantee they're throwing out $6 or more per day. Think about that. 6 times 5, $30 every week. 4 weeks, 3 times 4, that's $120. Most of those people are throwing out just on coffee and don't even think about it. Right? And I'm not saying again that you can't ever do that, but every day? Come on. But they don't even think about it because that's just the American way. And then they wonder why they're stressed out all the time over their finances. Okay? Another example. Again, and by the way, if you can get a new car for $30,000, so again, I'm being very, okay? But a new car, the interest rate for a new car right now, if you have a decent credit score, is 3.3% for 7 years, okay? Which is ridiculous. And in 7 years, I looked it up, and I'll show you a couple of these tools here in just a second. I looked it up. In 7 years, your car is going to depreciate by 77%. Okay? So by the time you pay off your car, you will, for that $30,000 car, if you do it the American way, you're going to actually pay $37,000 for the car. But not only that, you're going to lose $23,000 in value of the car, because the car is only going to be worth $7,000. Okay? So in other words, if you add the amount that you paid and the amount you lose on depreciation, that car is going to cost you $62,000 of net worth. Now, here's the reason why I use this verbiage. One of the other changes that you've got to make is you've got to stop thinking, how much money do I make every year? And start thinking net worth. You will not go to a club somewhere where a bunch of wealthy people sit, okay, and ever hear one of those wealthy people say to the other guy, "Hey, I got $1 raise today." They don't think salary. They think net worth. And you've got to make that shift, and I'll show you next week how to figure up your net worth and why it's important to think net worth as opposed to salary. So what we do is we pick it. We want to raise. We want to raise. We want to raise. We want to raise. No, that's middle class thinking. You got to shift the way you think about things, and one of the things is you got to think net worth, so that your decision has to be: is this adding to my net worth, or is it taking away from my net worth? And if it is taking away from my net worth, is it worth what it's taking away? Is that brand new car worth it to me for $62,000 over the next 7 years? If it is, go for it. I don't have a problem with that. Just understand what it's costing you. Okay? It's not costing you $30,000. It's not even costing you $37,000. It's costing you $62,000 in net worth. And again, I don't have a problem if that's the decision that you think is good for you and your family. Go for it. Okay? You guys know, because I just told you a month ago, I'm buying my wife a brand new car for $33,000. I know it's not going to cost us this because we're not going to have payments. We're paying for it with cash because I don't finance anything. So it's not exactly the same, but I know what it's costing me. And to me, it's going to be worth it where we are right now in life, especially for my wife. That's fine. Just understand it. Now, can I tell you, go to the internet. The internet is an amazing place to go. So for example, how did I figure up here at this website? I just Google searched car depreciation. I found this website here. on how to calculate a car depreciation. And I just punched in the number, 33,000. You see it here? 7 years. Actually, you know what? You're going to lose more money than that because I punched in 33,000 and I told you the car cost 30. So actually, it's not going to be worth that much. It's actually going to be worth less than 7,000. See, I mean, the tools are here. We just got to find them and use them. So if I want to know how much that car is going to cost me in 7 years, then, okay, the car I bought for $30,000 in 7 years, that car, and obviously different cars depreciate at different rates, but this is a general idea to kind of give you an idea. So I just put in car depreciation. I did that just this week. Car depreciation. I want to know how much this car is going to cost me. There are amazing tools out there. That's just a normal calculator. I wanted to know, what's the interest rate on a car? I just typed it in, interest rate in the car. Here's the going interest rates right now on the car. New car, this is at a decent credit score that you have. A used car, how much is it going to cost? If I want to refinance one, if I'm going to lease. Again, this tool here is an amazing tool. I love using this tool whenever I'm wanting to figure out an interest rate. So, for example, Joe, you guys just got a house, right? Purchased a house, right? So you're gonna love this portion here. So let me show you a couple of tools. Let's just say that you bought a house for, let's just say $300,000, okay? And you are going to get a 30-year loan, which my personal opinion is stay away from 30-year loans. That's my personal opinion. If you can do a 15-year loan, you want a 15-year loan if you can, okay? Because the interest rate on a 15-year loan is going to be lower than a 30-year loan, okay? Here are the current, I just typed in current interest rates on a mortgage, house mortgage. Here's the current going rates. You got 5.5, 4.7, and again, this is with a decent credit score. You want to have a good credit score because it's sad how it's set up, but if you have poor credit, you have to pay higher interest, which makes it hard to get out of, right? So you want a good credit score, okay? But you have 5.5% for a 30-year, but then if you punch in, okay, so here's another, I don't want to use that one though. Let me show you. Okay, so a 30-year at 5.5%, normal, calculate. Let me see what it is. 300,000, 30 years, 5.5. Remaining, I have 30 years. This is the beginning of my loan. Calculate. Okay. So, if I finance the house, yeah, Chris? Actually, I have, up until me refinancing my house, it was actually 850. I had a perfect credit score. When I refinanced my house, it dropped to 833. My credit score now is 833 because I took out a loan.
But you use credit cards, right?
Yeah, I use credit cards. I pay them off. I pay all my bills on time. Matter of fact, I pay my bills the day I get them in the mail. I pay all my bills. The day I get in the mail, it's paid that day. The first thing I do is go to my computer and pay my bill right then. If I even get in the mail, others are automatically paid for me. But by paying everything off early and right on time. Yeah. So if I borrowed $300,000 for my house, 30-year loan, 5.5% for 30 years, this payment of $1,700 is not including my insurance and taxes. You need to understand that, okay? Your escrow, all right? But my total payments for that house, that $300,000 house on a 30-year loan, is going to be $613,000, right? So in other words, I'm paying more in interest for that house than I actually paid for the house itself. See that? Now, let me show you a wonderful trick, okay? And if you'll do this, and it's even not too late if you want to, you can go back to your lending institution and say, listen, instead of paying a monthly payment, I want to pay a bi-weekly payment, okay? Watch what happens whenever you just do that one thing, calculate. Now, I'm paying a total of $552, and I'm paying $252,000 in interest. I saved myself by paying every 2 weeks instead of once a month. I saved myself over $50,000. Yeah, you sure can. But they're not going to sell it to you that way. You have to ask for it. You have to ask for it. Now, here's the reason why. There's 2 reasons this is true, okay? 2 reasons this is true, and I'll show it to you. Here, I'm going to show you the amortization table, okay? Let me show you the 2 reasons this is true. By doing it every other week, what's going to happen is you're going to make 26 payments in a year as opposed to 12 payments. In other words, you're going to pay, right, because you have 12 months, but you have 52 weeks. Divide 52 by 2, you have 26. So you're actually making 2 extra payments a year. Does that make sense? So that if you look at the amortization, okay, of a payment, you're going to see, and this is the thing, and some of this is going to be so elementary for you, so forgive me, okay? But you'll be surprised how many people don't understand this. When you take out your loan that you guys just made, Joe, and you pay your first payment, you're only paying $328. Out of this payment of $1,375, only $328 is going toward principal. Every bit of the rest of it's going toward interest. See that? So whenever you get through making this payment, you now still owe $299,671 because they're going to charge you all the interest early in the loan. Okay? If I was to work this all the way down, if I was to pull this all the way down to the end of the amortization, okay, and I've got it set up. I really, here, let me do this, guys, so you can get the full effect of it. I want you to get the full effect of what's happening here. We're going to go back to normal payments, okay? Amortization. And I'm going to show you how to make this work for you. If you understand this, you can make it work for you. So this is a normal month to month. 328 is going toward it. This is what you owe, right? You go all the way down toward the end when you probably have a little bit more money and you can afford to make extra payments. Watch what your last payment is. Your last payment, you're paying $7.77 toward the principal. Of interest, and $1,695 toward the principal. See, they're getting all their money up front. Okay? So this is how you make it work for you guys. And this is how I paid my house off so quickly and had to refinance because I did this. Okay? See this second payment the principal's 329. See that? If when I make my first payment, I then can come up with $329 and pay on top of my payment another $329 toward principal, I technically just saved myself $1,373 because I don't have to make that payment now. Right? Because I paid the principal for the next one. Are you following me? But you have to mark it that way. If you don't mark it that way. So most mortgages, you can do that without being penalized. But you want to ask, can I pay it early without being penalized? Okay? Most of them are that way. But what people don't know is if you do that. So I actually made 2 payments by simply paying an extra $329. Okay? So then the next payment, if I could come up with $332, I just made 2 more payments. So you actually are doubling up your payments. Okay? But again, I hate 30-year loans. Yes, Lisa?
Could you do that same calculation at a 15-year loan?
Yeah. So,
And then the bi-weekly one too?
yeah. Okay, so let me show you the difference, okay? So let's just say you took out the same loan for 15 years, and typically you're going to save yourself about a percentage point. So now your interest rate's going to be 4.5. We could look it up, but you get the idea, okay? It's going to be in that ballpark. Now, instead of paying a total of $613, watch what happens. Now your whole payment's going to go up a little bit, okay? Yeah, thank you. It was going to correct me if I didn't do it. Thank you, Nick. Okay? So now I'm going to calculate. Boom. So my payment did go up about, what, $400 or $500? Okay? But look at the difference now. I'm only paying $113,000 interest as opposed to $303. See what I'm saying? Now, here's a little trick that you can do if you want. Let's just say you go, whoa, I don't know if I can keep our belt that tight. I don't know that we can make this payment. So what you can do is you can go back to your 30-year loan, and this will give you a little bit of freedom, but yet you're going to save yourself quite a bit of money. Calculate. Okay. So let's just say $500 was the difference. Close to that, right? In the payment. Now, first of all, let's ask for a bi-weekly payment. And look right here. I can make extra payments here. Repay with extra payments. It's not going to let me calculate both. But let's just say I don't know if I can do the 22 every month, but I'm going to try to match it. Are you following me? Now, it's not going to get you down to 15 years, but it will definitely help you. Watch this. Look at this. Here's your new interest, $171 instead of $313. And you're going to be paying it off in about 18 years as opposed to 30 years. Now, here's the beautiful thing about doing it this way. If, let's just say, you had some unexpected medical expenses or something like that, and you needed that $500, you've got it. Because your mortgage payment is not the $1,222 that you're committed to, right? Are you following me? So I got a little bit of a cushion here, but I'm still eating away, and I'm saving myself a bunch of money, $130,000. Yes?
When you pay bi-weekly, do you still have the same house payment, or do you have half a house payment?
Nope. You'll have half. Let me show you. So I've got, because this calculator won't let me do both. Watch this. So, okay, I'm going to calculate so we can see it. Oops, what did I do? Oh, okay. Well, I want to do normal first because I want her to see this. Okay. So here's your normal payment, $1,703. All right, watch. Biweekly, it's going to go in half. Up. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. $851. Okay, which is about half. Okay. But let me show you the amortization chart again on this. And I want to show you why it saves you so much money. 2 reasons why it's saving you so much money. Interest on your mortgage is compounded daily. So if I'm paying half of my mortgage on the first of the month, okay, and then I'm not waiting till the first of the month to make the next payment. I'm paying half of it in the middle of the month. Now, from the middle of the month to the end of the month, that portion is not being compounded in my interest. You see what I'm saying? And that makes a big difference, especially over 30 years. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's one reason. Here's the second reason. Notice here the amount of money that's going toward principal. $328, $329, $331, $332, $334. Oh, what happened there? Here's what happened there. That's the 6th month. It's the 6th month. And remember, you're doing it every other week. So every other week, your payment of $800 or whatever is being added. See, the difference is $800. So every bit of that is going toward principal. Every bit of it goes toward principal. See? And then again, see how it's back down to 300s? Boom, 1,200. That's 6 months later again. So twice a year, you're paying, one of your payments is going all toward principal. Which really, again, brings the... So again, you got to think long term. Yeah, Jeff?
Can we just reiterate, we were talking earlier before you got into this method about making an extra payment or a portion of an extra payment each month. That you have to tell your institution what you're doing, otherwise they're just going to take it out like normal.
Yes. Otherwise, what they'll do is they'll put it toward the next payment. Again, they don't want you to do this, okay? So remember I told you Pam Adams did what I told her? This is what she did. Pam went to her lending institution. She said, I want to refinance my house, which the interest rate had gone down from her previous loan. I want to go from 30-year to 15-year. Okay, so she went from 30-year to 15-year. She went from a higher interest rate to a lower interest rate. She went from monthly to bi-weekly, and she lowered her payment and saved herself over $200,000 on her house just by doing those 3 things.
And probably paid her house off sooner.
Yeah, well, she did because she went from a 30-year loan to a 15-year loan.
But even less than 15?
If she pays extra payments, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, because she's doing the bi-weekly. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lisa.
This is the refinancing thing, right? This is like,
Well, you can refinance, but this was taking out a mortgage. This was like Joe and them going.
so like we already have a mortgage.
So you can go back and say, I want to start making bi-weekly payments. You have that option if you want to. You might have to pay a little bit of a fee up front to make it happen, but it would be worth it over a period of time. Or you could just simply go the route and stay where you're at. If you're on a 30-year loan and you can go to a 15-year loan, oh man, you're missing your opportunity because interest rates are just shooting through the roof right now. But it would have been better last year to do all this. But which was another reason why we refinanced my house last year, because I had anticipated this happening. But if you can go from a 30-year to a 15-year, you're going to save yourself money. For one. But even if you don't do that, Lisa, if let's just say that you're in this and you, let's just say, just put $100 a month toward your principal. Just that alone, okay? On a 30-year, okay? And I don't know what your interest rate is right now on your mortgage, but just going with that right there, just $100 a month, watch what happens. What did I do? I didn't do something. What did I not do? Oh, I didn't hit repay. I didn't hit that. Okay. But look, just $100 a month, I'm going to still be saving myself almost $50,000.
And that's just paying regular payments?
Making a regular payment, but paying $100 per month extra toward my principal.
And that's not even the biweekly?
That's not even the biweekly. That's not refinancing it. That's not any of that. Now, that's going from the very beginning of the loan. Understand that? Which is going to give you the greatest return. All right? I got to watch our time. We're not going to get through the whole lesson, but I want you to see. But these are tools that are on the internet. You're watching me do it live here. I mean, just plug in what you're looking for. Mortgage rate, on a home, 30-year, 15-year. Yeah, Brian?
I'm assuming you would recommend that people pay off their debt before they start doing this.
Yes, because your interest rate, okay, so this is one thing that I differ a little bit from Dave Ramsey. I know why Dave Ramsey does it, okay? So Dave Ramsey will teach you to take the smallest debt amount. Let's just say that one of your loans is $300. He would say try to pay that one off and then take the payment that you pay on that one. Let's just say it's $25 a month and add it to the next one and try to pay it off. It's go from the smallest amount of loan debt and snowball it into the bigger. I understand why he does that because he's dealing with people who have been undisciplined and who don't have a financial education, and they need the motivation of seeing progress. Okay? And that's probably good advice, but if you can get a financial education, a little bit of discipline, that's not the best way to go about it. The best way to go about it is pay as much as you can toward the debt that has the largest hole, highest interest rate. So if you have a credit card that has an interest rate of 18%, okay, and you have a school loan of 5%, don't worry about the stinking 5% school loan. You're losing 10% every time you're paying toward that school loan when you should be getting that big hole closed. Does that make sense? So to your point, Ryan, your interest rate on your mortgage is going to be probably 5.5 or lower if you've refinanced recently, and I hope you have in the last few years. So why would you want to work really hard at paying this down when this is your smaller hole in the bucket, so to speak, and you got a credit card, $3,000 credit card that you're paying 18% interest on? You would do better to get rid of that first and then go toward this. Yeah. I just want you to see how interest works against you. So okay, let me show you. You can use this for that. Okay, you got a credit card. I don't know what the limit would be to pay it off though. So that would be the hard part. Let's just say 10 years. But your interest rate is going to be, instead of 5, it's going to be like, at least 18. 18, okay? Yeah, they can be. I'm trying not to I'm exaggerate things, okay? But that $3,000 card, if you made the minimal payments of $54 over 10 years, that's actually going to cost you almost $6,500. See? So why do you want to do that? And can I tell you that a lot of people, hopefully not in this room, but a lot of people, all they do is make their minimal payment on their credit card. And what they're doing is they're not paying it off. And this is if you never use the credit card again. See that? And again, I know some of you, this is common knowledge, but so you can look it all up, and there are calculations on how you can do it. And again, if you want to sit down one-on-one, I can help you with some of this stuff. But just here's a case scenario. A credit card of $9,000 at 18% interest. If you make the minimum payment, I can't remember where I got this from. I think I got it from Dave Ramsey. That credit card will cost you $48,000 over a 3-year period. Man, you need to get rid of that thing. Get rid of it. Kill that thing. Which is why Dave Ramsey says to cut them up. Now, I understand, and I made this statement in your notes there. It's humble to purchase a $60,000 home, even just say a $100,000 home now, that needs to be fixed up, and to drive an old car when your peers may be living in a $250,000 house and driving a brand new car. I understand that, but can I remind you that the Bible says that God opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. Live within your means. Let me show you. Listen, now I just redid these figures based upon some research I just did on the internet, okay? I'm going to show you how an average American lives right now. This is average, okay? If someone earns $50,000 a year over a 40-year period, they're going to make $2 million, okay? Uncle Sam will take $600,000 of that for taxes, leaving you $1,400. The average person is going to end up spending close to $600,000 on a home. And here's the reason why. They'll buy a house, they make all those huge payments up front, not paying off the principal, but paying a lot of interest. Remember, I showed you that. Then 5 years later, they buy another house and start all over again. Then 5 years later, they buy another house, start all over again. So they're always paying a lot of money on interest. So the average person out there will easily spend this kind of money over a 40-year period on a house, okay? Leaving you $800,000. The average person, and this is really low, but again, I'm trying not to be an exaggerator here, $300 car payment over a 40-year period, you're paying $144,000 on your car. Subtract that, now you have $656,000. The average person has a credit card debt that over a lifetime will easily reach over $49,000 on credit, leaving you $607,000. If you take $607, divide it by 40, okay, you're going to end up having $15,000 that you're having to try to live on every year, and you have a $50,000 payroll. This is what debt will do to you. And notice, I didn't even take tithe out of this. I didn't even start with tithe. I want you to understand. I'm not trying to depress anybody. I'm trying to help you understand and see that if you do not get a financial education, and if you just do what our society tells us to do with finances, they are keeping you strapped. And you don't have to live that way. I get angry. I get passionate about this because I understand what they're doing. This is the reason why, and if you were here, you might remember the Sunday after Barack Obama was elected as president, I stood right there on that platform and I said, our nation is celebrating because they said slavery is over with. We have a black president. I said, it has not changed. It's gone from a race to finances. Most are financially in slavery because the borrower is servant to the lender. And we don't have to live that way. If we want to, we can be out from underneath the lenders. And again, I say that with this one thing in mind. Removing the mortgage thing. I understand the mortgage thing might be difficult. But even as I pointed out to you last week, in 1929, only 2% of people had a mortgage on their house. But by 1962, only 2% did not have a mortgage on their house. Completely flipped in 33 years. Why? Because that's what they told us. That's what they started propagating. Okay? So, going heavily in debt, I propose to you, is both unbiblical and unwise. You got to treat debt like a snake in your living room. You would cut its head off in a heartbeat. You got to treat it like that. It's the reason why I said don't even go to sleep. Deal with it. Kill it. Do everything you can to get rid of it. So just to close out real quick, and I only got 2 minutes because some of you need to pick up your kids. You got to have a clear goal, and you got to understand why it's important. I tried to communicate a why tonight. Okay, you got to kill it. Okay, you got to start spending less than what you're earning. And you know what? It might mean you have to disconnect, Netflix or some of the things that you enjoy for a little while. But we're not talking about forever. It might mean you have to drive past Starbucks instead of going into Starbucks. Get rid of that credit card debt. If you have a credit card debt, do everything, because that's usually the biggest interest rate is credit cards. Then you may not be able to do this right away, but this should be a goal to get to where you don't have to borrow even for a car, if you can. And again, everybody's scenario is different. And I will tell you, some of you, leasing would be better than buying because you don't drive that much. For my wife and I, we both drive over 20,000 miles a year, both of us. So leasing is not an option for us because it would cost us so much, all the extra mileage, right? If we drove 10,000 miles a year, I probably would actually consider leasing right now, from what I understand. So again, everybody's situation is different, all right? But as a general rule, try to stay away. And here's the reason why, because the greatest appreciating, if you want to use the term asset, that you have is your car, okay? And then never borrow for a depreciating asset if you can, which is the reason why I said don't do it for a car. Make extra payments on your home mortgage if you can, and then earn extra money. You can earn extra money. You might have to sell something. You might have to get a side job. We're going to talk about passive income next week. We're going to talk about how to create some passive income, those type of things. But figure out, how can I earn extra money? And then you always want to keep favor with God. You listen, I don't talk about it near as much as I'm going to, but you've got to tithe. You want God's blessing on that 90%. And you always want that. And then you see in your notes, there's some book recommendations. I will tell you, I think, because I used to buy them by the case, I think in my basement, I have a few of the Dave Williams, The Road to Radical Riches books. I think I have some. I'm going to try to look, if I do, I'll bring them next week. So if you want to bring $15, I think it's at least $15 for the book. If you want to bring $15, I'll have them available if you want to get one. I'll just let you know. And I might have a couple of the Wealthy Place books by Dave also, and I think those were $10. That's exactly what I paid for them. Something of that nature, if you're interested. But these other books, a lot of those books you can go on eBay, get them at or Amazon, buy them used, you know. I'm huge on audiobooks as well. You can get them at reduced rate electronically. So those are some books that I would recommend. But again, go on YouTube, go on the internet, just start searching. You'll be surprised what you can learn out there. Yeah, Lisa.
What's the last little thing, the average individual?
What's what?
There's, after your steps, the financial freedom.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Dave Ramsey says that anybody who really gets serious about getting out of debt can usually do so between 18 and 24 months. I'm talking about they really get serious about it. And I think that's with the exception, yeah, it is, with the exception of their mortgage. But almost anybody who really gets serious, regardless of how bad they're in debt, usually within a year and a half, 2 years, they can get out. Thanks, Lisa. I forgot it. Yeah. Cool. Okay, listen, guys, it's 8:33, so if you have kids, if you'll be kind to our children workers. Yeah. God bless you guys. Next week, we'll talk about net worth. We'll talk about some investment opportunities that maybe you can do some homework on, okay? And some of the more, yeah.
You said you are willing to like sit down, because I mean Nick is like, I'm sorry, I get emotional about this.
I know it can be overwhelming. Yeah.
When we came here from California, when we moved here from California, we were like 90 grand in debt because we just couldn't survive out there without it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like really struggling to pay it off.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I told you like I had to go to work and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just don't know what to do.
Right.
And I feel like he's trying to implement a budget, but I mean, it's a hard one to make the sacrifices, and we just haven't done it. But it's killing us.
Oh, no doubt. Financial pressure is one of the top 3 things that causes divorce. You gotta kill it, man. Oh, hey guys, I forgot. If you could help me pick up the tables, that would be awesome. If we can fold them and put them up here, I'll take care of it. Yeah, if any of you can help me with that, huh?
Oh no, it's just
We'll fold them up. They'll go out in the hallway. I'll show you. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know and I haven't saved all the receipts yet. I was gonna do it to find out what I'm spending. But it's like we're trying to find all these side hustles, and I'm like, well, these side hustles that we're doing, it's not really not helping us at all. We're only making like $1. You know, it's like, so I just don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah. I'll be more than glad to try to help you. And sometimes I meet with people, and it really is above my head. And then I will. Do you know Pete Midler?
I don't.
He's an older gentleman in our church. Prince of a man. Very, very confidential, very loving, very understanding. Has helped me help a lot of people in the church through the years. If it's beyond me, we could go that next step. But yeah, I would be more than willing to sit down with you guys or whoever.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if he's ready for that. You know, like.
yeah, and that's a big thing too, Lisa. Both of you have to be on board.
Yeah.
Both of you have to understand that, So I would encourage you. We're videoing these.
Yeah.
Now I don't know how well it's coming across on
He was
video.
gonna come tonight, but we got a couple of kids at home. So
Yeah.
He'll be here
But I
next
mean,
week.
you can always watch it
Yeah, for
so that
sure.
you can be on the same understanding, because that's really huge too.
Yeah. I mean, we both don't want